Uh, Hi. So I've been working in the sector of education for quite some years now, and I have had the opportunity of working with for a very long time with Vidya Bhavan Education Resource Center, and for some time now we have been in the field of consulting for non-governmental organizations. In in all the different organizations that I've worked with, engaging with teachers has always been an important area, whether it is through the formal, channel of the kind of in-service programs that state organizes or that NGOs organize, or whether it is more in terms of going to the school and having, or the fact that I have a lot of teacher friends now. So this conversation today is emerging from that. Um, Before I start, I would request you all to you know, do me a favor by uh, filling in this, filling in this Mentimeter, responding to this question. You have to write one or two words that come to your mind when you think of teacher professional development. So what you have to do is you have to scan this code, or I think I can also give you a link to. Is this cloud visible to you all now? The word cloud.
Yes, yes, Richa.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that a lot of people have must have written continuous because that is the biggest word. Then there are words like continuous betterment, lifelong learning, which are similar to continuous. Then we have words like autonomous, reflective, lifelong, sorry, skill development, workshop training. Yes. Um, Much needed, and some other words. So, yeah, so this kind of gives me a feeler of where we all are right now in terms of our thoughts around this. Back to the presentation. So, as people working in this sector, I think these are some of the questions that we have all thought about at some point of time. Who are teachers? Are they professionals? What makes one a professional? And I, for one, am a trained teacher, but my teaching experience is very limited to some internship that I did in DLED and a few months in a Delhi government school, and I think around 2 months in a school in Udaipur, in a semi-urban locality. Um and it is often said that it is easier to be a teacher educator than to be a teacher. So I very quickly shifted my role and went onto the side where you can do a bit of teacher education, but you don't have to have the struggles of being a teacher. Uh, so I think that's the area from where I'm coming today. In this presentation, I would be talking about two. I'll be talking about two. I see this presentation in two parts. First is the red signals which are emerging from the field, and secondly, about the practices which are worth highlighting, worth spreading. So, although I start talking about a lot of not so positive things, but I want to assure you that the presentation is not all negative and sad. So, starting with the kind
Could
of
put it
things
in
that we.
presentation mode, sorry, before you
Sorry,
start.
I'll put it on the presentation
Yeah,
mode. Yeah.
thank
Yeah. So when we're talking about teacher professional development, in principle, it is meant to mirror what we believe enables learning in classrooms. After all, training is for pedagogic shift, and the experience in the workshop should actually be an opportunity to learn what is expected of them in the classrooms. Also, we know that most of us fall back on folk pedagogy, the way we have seen teaching happen in classrooms instead of what is talked about. So it's similar to how we are as parents. We usually do what our parents do, however much we may criticize them. So the idea of all this capacity building, professional development is to actually make a dent on that. So then it is very essential that we talk about, that we not just talk about the principles that require a change, but we also live them, give an opportunity to experience them. Uh, but in my experience, a lot of teacher professional development quietly violates these very principles that, in a way, it seems to claims to uphold. Um, so, for example, I would say that instead of building a professional learning community where people can learn from each other, these workshops become areas which induce a lot of fear, discomfort, and a sense of being managed rather than nurtured. Uh, as a result, opportunities which could have been empowering opportunities become sites of disempowerment for the teachers. Um, the first idea that I would like to pick up is about, you know, learning spaces or ecosystems that make us feel safe. Uh, Learning in itself asks for a kind of vulnerability. It requires the freedom to try out things, to fumble, to question. Um, and yet, workshops are usually not spaces where we see that kind of a space being available. Um, when I was thinking about this interaction today, one incident that came to my mind was a long time back when I was taking an English workshop as part of the SSC training that used to happen. We were doing a simple, engaging activity around making as many sentences as you can make about a pen. And as the activity progressed, the challenge also kind of increased, but the creativity also started increasing. People were thinking about, different kinds of sentences that you can keep making about the same pen which is in front of you. And then suddenly, some male teachers who were part of the teacher union entered the room and mm, said things in a very loud voice. And the volume and aggression in their voice was enough to make many of us shake. Um, So in that kind of a situation, I'm not sure what kind of safety that women teachers would feel. Uh, or for that matter, I think it is in the same training where uh, an officer from the BO's office publicly abused a teacher one day, and the second day in the morning, he addressed the group by calling teachers being his sisters and brothers. So there is a lot of dissonance in practice that you see. And the reason I bring this dissonance is that it is not trivial. It is the signaling the messaging about, the dignity of a teacher. It tells that dignity is conditional and that power, not learning, sets the tone of these interactions. Uh, So similarly, when we are talking about children's learning, we keep talking about a sense of security, about one's self-esteem. I believe that when we are talking of learning in an adult context, that's when this would be something which would be even more important. But when we are talking of individual teachers, or when we are talking about teachers as community, the ways in which this self-esteem is hampered are many, many. Uh, The second important precondition for learning is availability of essential resources. Uh, the most important resource that seems to be talked about these days in the workshops is the PowerPoint, not just by the organizers, but the master trainers that you are, talking to. The most important thing that they keep talking, would we get the PowerPoint after the workshop? Um, the organizers would keep asking you, do you have a PowerPoint? By when will you send the PowerPoint? Um, but I believe that more than the PowerPoint, the space in which the workshop is about to happen, the seating arrangement, and believe it or not, the tea and lunch arrangement. I think those are also areas which should be considered as essential learning resources. When we are talking of space, we are obviously talking of physical space where movement, sharing, sitting in groups is possible. I would also like to say that the idea of space also includes the possibility to have dialogue, have discussions, argue with each other. Uh, Often that space is not provided. Um, so when I was working in Vidya Bhavan in Udaipur. You know, Again, I think I'm going back to the SSA days, but not great has changed. The numbers must have changed, of course. The SCRT Rajasthan reached out to the training college in Vidya Bhavan, and they wanted to organize full day workshops. The budget available with them was 55 rupees per person per day. That amount was to cover two teas, uh, drinking water, and lunch. Now, the point is that this is not just a budget line item that we're talking about. It is it is an indicator of how little is invested in the comfort of teachers. We would see in the training halls a lot of times trainings are conducted in school complexes, and the trainer would get a chair, but the teachers would be expected to sit on the floor. It is not uncommon to find 50 people squeezed into one room. Um, to save money, full day workshops would not have any residential provisions. So there would be teachers who would travel 1.5 hours each way to attend. Uh, Once there, we were having a workshop in a school in Rajasthan where around 150 teachers were attending the workshop, and the school complex had one washroom and there was no running water there. So it is not just absolute disrespect, but it is also a messaging of your time and body can absorb the cost. It is an indication of how the system treats teachers and their well-being. Um, so yeah, the third thing that comes to mind is the entire negation of the fact that teachers are coming with a lot of experience to these workshops. They are not freshers or learners in the same sense. When we are talking about learning, we are constantly reiterating that the fact that we start from where the child is. There is a current level, there is prior knowledge existing. So we need to think of that. In the case of teachers, we often forget that they have tried out a lot of strategies. They would have made their own experiments. There would be some successes, a lot of failures that they would have to share. So when they share skepticism, there is probably value to it, and probably it is just fatigue also. Um, so I remember Professor Sarangapani was using the term that when we are talking in the context of TPG, it is very used consciously used words are of improving, deepening, and strengthening the knowledge, because there is a lot of knowledge which is already existing. Uh, but a lot of workshops that we attend these days, and mostly in the context of these large scale programs of NGOs where there is state support, there are ready-made solutions which are to be rolled out, and the workshops are more like an orientation or a you know mm, giving them the wherewithal to do what needs to be done to improve the classrooms. So these ready-made solutions in a way erase all this expectation कि भाई कुछ तो वो लेकर भी आ रहे हैं. The trainers position themselves as problem solvers, and teachers are almost seen as empty recipients. The message being that the expertise lies elsewhere. The, the idea of a empty vessel or a blank slate, which has been negated as a children's learning theory, seems to continue in our TPD programs. And no wonder, as a result, continues in our classrooms. Similarly, the practice of giving printed structured lesson plans. Now, that is something that you would know is something which is happening a lot in many of the states right now. It is something that World Bank has a lot of backing for, and UP is trying it out at a large scale. So Delhi is doing it at a large scale. So there is this expectation that teachers would not know what to do, and if you give them structured plans where there is, minute by minute coding of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done, then situations would improve. Um, I remember a friend in Delhi talking to me about it and sharing that how difficult it is for them to work with these lesson plans which are provided. And then the approach that they have for it is to quietly ignore them. So, yeah. Uh, Moving on to the next important idea, which is the active engagement and construction of knowledge. Again, something which is repeatedly talked about but rarely practiced. Instead of designing space for teachers to examine their own classrooms, analyze students' work, preferably their own students' work, or you know, exercises of error analysis or things like that, or co-creating material with each other, most workshops remain dominated by long monologues. Trainers talk at length about their organization, about government schemes, about the right pedagogy, while the teachers are expected to sit through these dense presentations. Um, Another tool, so-called, is demonstration. Demonstration where a kind of pedagogy is demonstrated, or demonstration of activity to be done in classroom. Uh, it is often a misused and overused strategy, in my opinion, because on one hand, it expects that teachers would be able to play the role of young learners, and on the other hand, uh, when we have seen these things take place in schools, in workshop settings, a lot of people quietly sit back and let the enthusiastic teachers participate and play along, and this further leads to a lot of disengagement from their side. Uh, Lastly, I want to talk about the lack of opportunities of peer learning in these workshops. Like everyone, teachers learn best when they are able to speak, when they are able to share their doubts, where they are not scared of being judged, or they are able to test out their ideas, strategies against one another's experience. In such spaces, what a colleague says has already passed a relevance test, because it is difficult to hear what a trainer is saying. It is difficult to believe what a trainer is saying, but it is easier to believe what a teacher, a peer is saying. Uh, at the same time, peer learning also is a great opportunity to build confidence. Um, I believe it, confidence is one of those resources that our teachers are chronically short of, uh, because there is years of blame and scrutiny that they have experienced. Yet many workshops are organized in ways that isolate participants. Individual seating is there. There are rigid schedules. There is very less time for informal conversation. And there is a lot of focus on utilizing all the time available, covering the maximum possible syllabus. So with with all this, all these uh, by portraying this dreary picture, the principles of TPD that I wanted to highlight is that TPD basically requires the same principles that we talk about in classrooms. It requires psychological safety, dignity, acknowledgement of prior knowledge, active meaning making, and deep peer learning. When these are missing, no number of modules or training days can compensate for the silence that settles in a room. Where teachers do not feel like learners, they do not feel like professionals, they basically are trainees and trainees only.
If anybody would like to make some comments now or share their experience now before Richa continues.
Hi, I'm Masuda here. Can I say something?
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think thank you very much. And This is quite important what was discussed because teachers should be given the opportunity to discuss what has happened in the classroom. And they do have a lot of experiences to share. And even the staff room culture, instead of talking about the weak side of the students, teachers, if they have meaningful conversation in the staff room and if they share what they are doing in their teaching time, that is a very good in-service teacher training as well. Because as a teacher, I remember I was with Sardar Patel School in Delhi, and an English teacher, like our lunch breaks or whatever we used to have. So one of the English teachers, she shared a very interesting activity that she did in the class of retelling stories there, which was for grade 7 and 8. I'm just giving an example. It was the same stories that we've been reading, like Cinderella or something. And she said, if Cinderella was here in this century, how would you rewrite the story? So these are something which no trainer maybe might not be able to think, how teachers themselves get so creative in the classroom. So and that is where PLC comes in very handy, professional learning communities, where teachers discuss within the school by leading various verticals. So that becomes very interesting, where teachers even share within the classroom what the limitations are, how the learners have their own challenges. And in today's time, depression among students is something which has to be dealt. And teachers do have to have a very balanced emotional well-being when being in the class, because we all have our ups and downs in life, and bringing that to the classroom, that even complicates the environment that one is teaching in. That's something that I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Masuda.
Masuda. So I'll share my presentation again.
There is a question in the chat.
Okay.
Actually, Richa, we'll come to the questions in the end. Please
In the
complete your
end.
presentation. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Is the screen visible now?
Yes.
Yes, yes, please go.
And it is in the presentation mode, right?
Yeah.
Oh. Right. So when we are talking of teacher as a professional, we are not simply talking of someone who knows the school content. Uh, we are talking of someone who has gone through the right kind of education, training, and has practiced. And this practice is what deliberately shapes the professionalism, the professional education, the professional qualification required for the job. In a way, it's like, being a surgeon, being a sports person, or a scientist, where uh, your knowledge is not just coming from your qualification, but it is coming from the practice that you have, the opportunity to practice that is there. So professionalism here rests on deep subject understanding, the ability to connect ideas, and a commitment to keep learning within and beyond the classroom. So it's not just something that you do inside the classroom, but it is something that you do irrespective of the space. Um, the most now coming to the kind of systemic ways where it is clearly flouted, the most pertinent example would be the para teachers, the Shiksha Mitra, and a lot of states are still continuing with things like these. Or the PPP model where community people are brought in, given some training and, work as teachers. I'm in no way trying to either challenge or, disrespect what they are doing. What I'm trying to question is how that affects professional identity of a teacher. Teacher education systems often talk about this professionalism. There is talk about it in the policy, but one of the places where I found this most sharply is in one of my favorite books by Lipping Ma, which is about knowing and teaching elementary mathematics. Uh, in that book, Ma compares mathematical understanding of Chinese and US elementary teachers across core topics like subtraction with regrouping, basically where you borrow, uh, division of fractions, area, and perimeter. Uh, so on paper, the American teachers are better qualified. They usually have more years of formal mathematics education with them when compared to the Chinese counterparts. Yet, when they were asked to explain why algorithms work, or when they were asked to create word problems, uh, it is the Chinese teachers who were consistently able to demonstrate richer, more flexible understanding. Their knowledge was much more coherent, interconnected, while the US teachers' knowledge was procedurally adequate, yet fragmented. So, in other words, professional teachers are not just applying knowledge, which is are not just applying subject knowledge, or they're not applying methods that they have received. What they're doing is that they are making deep connections between the subject knowledge and the pedagogy. They are engaging with textbooks in a particular manner. Um, they are engaging with textbooks in a particular manner. They are working on, they're looking at curriculum documents or uh, having discussions with colleagues in a particular manner. Those are the things that the Chinese teachers constantly said is what made them the kind of teachers that they were. They highlighted the fact that professional learning is not something that happened in some of the workshops. It is a result of long-term collaborative engagement with their everyday practice. Uh, so I think again I would refer to Professor Sarangapani, who talks about the fact that teaching is not an applied science. Teaching is something that develops out of practice and reflection of what one does. Uh, but how often do we see a sustained effort of this kind? We are, in fact, the initial Mentimeter that we rolled out also showed that a lot of you said continuity, continuous, long term, lifelong. But how do we see a sustained effort of this kind? Uh, in my opinion, these disconnected workshops and their lack of any result has led to deep fatigue in both teachers and administrators. In fact, the realization of the kind of fatigue is when we were doing workshop in Northeast, and we felt that the teachers were reasonably eager there. Um, Sorry, I kind of missed changing the slides. So the teachers in Northeast seem to be more eager in comparison to the teachers that we usually interacted with in North. And it is at that time that I realized that, the teachers in North have had so much exposure to these one-off workshops that their ability to engage in these workshops with enthusiasm has gone down significantly. Same is the case with administrators in states like Rajasthan, Haryana, who would talk about planning of workshops with a lot of disdain that this does not lead to anything. We have tried this for so many years, nothing happens. So there is obviously a lot of systemic fatigue around the idea of workshops, and we need to think about that. So when we were thinking about, what would make sense in this situation, we were thinking of, is it possible that we imagine a structure which is almost like a B.Ed or a D.Ed, but flowing across the years and is a much more longer term engagement. And it was interesting to see that even NEP has a reference for something, or at least opens the possibility for something like this, where it talks of ODL, open distance learning mode programs of specialization being offered by multidisciplinary institutions that offer high quality in-person B.Ed programs. So I was thinking that there is possibility of a program of this kind, a program where teachers don't just engage on a particular idea, but they get an opportunity to engage on subject knowledge for sure, but also uh, keep revisiting the sociological lens to see how children in their classes, the kind of challenges that children in their classes have, or keep having some philosophical discussions to understand how the aims of education and what is happening in the schools is related, or an opportunity to revisit the learning theories. So I so basically an opportunity to keep going to the basics as well as have an opportunity to learn alongside others. I think what we need to ask is the basic question. We need to ask the basic question that is it possible to change the narrative of fatigue, of exhaustion, of events being planned top down? There are moments when we find genuine spaces of curiosity, collaboration, and discovery. These uh, these are these are things which are worth sharing. So okay, I'll share with you an example where, again, last year or last year we were in Tripura, and when there was a group of science teachers working with a friend of ours, and around 20 senior teachers were outside looking for weeds, came back, set up an experiment, had the opportunity to follow it up, continue the data collection for a day and a half. So the learning did not come from a slide deck, but it actually came from touching, smelling, arguing, doing things together, noticing things together, or the fact that many of you may know that when the activity-based learning material program was being designed in Tamil Nadu, it was designed in a very collaborative manner where teachers from 13 corporation schools, came together, studied the river resources, then tried it out, modified the material for their own classes, tried it out, made changes, thought about how the classroom structure will change. So they were not given a finished package, but they were given an opportunity to engage with it, test cards, imagine the ladders, sequence and resequence the tasks to be done. Um, so that kind of a workshop is not a place where a lecture is being given, but that is a place where co-creation of a program is happening. The engagement which is there is very different. Or for that matter, when we were doing a project in Udaipur in, I think, 2010, 9-10. We were running a school intervention focusing on primary mathematics and language in 85 schools of Udaipur. Uh, these were government schools and low fee charging private schools. So although the schools were using Rajasthan board textbooks or textbooks published by various private publishers, we were able to convince the teachers to come 2 days every month and sit together and collectively read and solve the maths problems given in the NCERT textbooks. Here they would, you know, they would read all the content, they would solve the questions which are given. They would also do the try these and do these and the open-ended questions. They would think of ways of teaching something like this in the classroom, the misconceptions that they have seen, the kinds of mistakes that their children make. So this was not a place where anybody was trying to teach them or train them on anything, but this was a space where they were all learning and relearning mathematics for themselves. So why do these experiences matter? I wanted to share these experiences because to me they show that you know this is what teacher professional development might look like if it consistently respects teachers as professionals. When it is grounded in real materials, it is closely linked to what teachers are doing or have to do in the classroom, and it is shaped by the questions and choices that teachers have, and not dictated by the program lockdowns. And yet, I would be wary of the immensely joyful activity-packed workshops. Like I would be wary of the joyful teaching that happens in classrooms, because if the facilitator lacks the depth to connect experiences that are happening in a workshop setting back to the concepts, back to the curriculum, or to the long-term practice, then these workshops would also end up being just at activity level. And over the years, we have also seen a lot of workshops which are almost formulaic, where you can predict there would be an initial question, there would be some group work, there would be energizers, then some reflection, a lot of opportunity to speak for the teachers. And yet we don't very closely know how it all ends. So whether this results into any professional growth for teachers or not. This is where a key insight from Lipingma's work becomes relevant. Something that, again, I'm going back to something that you all also mentioned, that expertise, if we say that teacher professional development is like an expertise that one is gaining, it grows from long-term collaborative practice. It is something that disconnected workshops cannot lead to. Workshops do not speak to each other till the time there is no larger framework in which these workshops are placed. Instead of scattered sessions, it is worth imagining something closer to an extended course with a credit system, somewhat like what platforms such as Diksha have attempted. But it has to be a deeper offline practice-oriented form. Such a course would go beyond disjointed modules. Yeah. I think I should stop because then I'll not have any time for any questions from you. So basically, for my closing this thing, I think 2-3 things that I want to re-emphasize in terms of TPD is that we need to take a wider lens of what we are trying to achieve by the TPD approach. Teachers are one of the most questioned, closely examined individuals in our larger system. They are in the job of doing very difficult work. When we complete our pre-service program and we start working, none of us start with the desire to be just an average teacher, just pass my time. But that is what happens because they are the ones who are dealing with a lot of failure, a lot of challenges at a daily basis. They are the ones who vicariously also live through the struggles of their students' life, and this is absolutely true for teachers teaching in government schools, for teachers teaching in local private schools. They every day encounter the lives of their children who have daily struggles of of living. Uh, so where we are not able to offer any kind of a psychological support, probably these workshops can be spaces where they come back, feel refreshed, feel energized. But instead, unfortunately, these are becoming spaces of a lot of negativity and humiliation for them. So that is what I feel requires a massive change in the narrative around TPT. Thank you.
Thank you, Richa. I think Richa really highlighted the persistent deficit view we hold of teachers, whether it's in service, in the system, um, and because of this deficit view, everything is kind of thrust on them. And starting from, you mentioned lunches and tea arrangements too, which are so important, because I have an experience where we created a very nice atmosphere for tea and lunch, and that was one of the most appreciated things about the workshop, because the teachers felt so good, being in a nice space with good cutlery and an atmosphere for their tea and coffee and lunch. So yeah, those are important. Certainly peer learning, and also taking Leaping Ma's example, you talked about deeper knowledge and knowledge for teaching. So basically, like, pedagogical content knowledge is very important for a teacher. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions or discussions or sharing of experiences. I think we had one question which I feel you answered, but you can look at the chat again. This was by, the first question was by Anuradha. She says, I'm keen to know your thoughts on what would it take to create a teacher learning ecosystem where professional development is not an event, but an important part of teachers' professional identity.
Yeah, thank you, Anuradha, for the question. So, yeah, I think, Bindu, you're right. I kind of answered it where I feel that we need to have a larger frame in which we see TPD, where we are able to, create a long-term view in which it happens, where a credit system kind of a thing, which is linked to either a university or probably NCT, and on an ongoing basis, there are opportunities to do things together. There is opportunity to come back, but you also know that in the larger scheme of things, this is where you are going. Uh, Actually, I missed an important thing, which is about, which is again something that Lipingba talks about. That the Chinese teachers emphasize that the opportunity to teach across grades is what tells them the connectivity of concepts. And but in our system, the primary teachers are primary teachers, the TGTs are TGTs, the secondary teachers are secondary teachers. The primary teachers do not get opportunity to teach in any other grade. The senior teachers would feel demoted if they are expected to teach the junior classes. So systematically, we can create opportunities for things like these, where there is a long-term engagement. आप साल 10 साल 5 साल 10 साल, this is the long term trajectory that you have. You are a teacher, but you would continue learning, and these are the kinds of courses that you can keep on doing, which means this is the kind of probably appraisal you will get, and how movement across the grades is possible. So yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a question, Bindu, but I'll wait for others to first ask their questions, if any.
Go ahead, Ananya. I think people are thinking through.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So, Richa, since just now you also spoke about how there needs to be a long-term view of professional learning, and one of the ways it could be done is to have some credit-based thing. But if we just look at NEP, it proposes this national professional standards for teachers, right, which links their career progression with demonstrated competencies as per the NPST. So one is, what are your thoughts on that? And second, if that has to be implemented, what are the structures that are realistically needed to support teachers in, achieving those competencies as expected through NPST? And also through your experience, have you now recently, since NEP, have you had any discussions with teacher educators around this? Yeah.
Which I had seen NPST long time back. And just, I think this week we were talking about it with with people like, with people who kind of worked on NEP, and the fact that this is something that we need to talk to teachers about. And one challenge that I felt with NPST is the way it is presented. It just looks so complex right now that even if the expectation is not uh, so even if the expectation is not daunting, getting a hang of what is expected is a challenge in itself. So the document really needs to be simplified, and only then the teacher educators would understand कि हम आगे जाके क्या बात करें. Uh, and I also feel that the expectation actually are not so. If you look at it in a simpler manner, the expectations are not so great. These are things that people would have been doing in any case, or the general fact of engaging in classrooms and an opportunity to engage with peers would put them on a positive trajectory in any case. So, yeah, so my thoughts would be this. Please simplify the document. And once that is done, I don't see a reason why the natural course will not lead to it.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions?
I think Masuda has written something.
Yeah,
There are gaps in teacher education institutions and links for professional development. What would you suggest to research in this area, as each would require coming out of their comfort zones?
Yes.
So, Masuda, when you are asking this question, are you asking that what kind of research needs to be done, or how can we work towards bridging this gap?
Both ways, because it becomes very intimidating when you take it up as a research topic.
What is your research topic?
No, I mean, it is around this area, so, but it has not been accepted so far.
Okay. I think most teacher education institutes are in any case expected to work with schools, and their work with schools is in many ways. So last month we had a workshop of diet principles, and some of the things that we realized while working with them is that the diet principles every year are sending out a lot of these trainees to the schools. These trainees that are going to the school are also, are also like almost like breath of fresh air. So the kind of preparation, the kind of enthusiasm that can be given to schools by sending out these trainees every year it can be a more planned thing. It can be something that is planned better with the schools. So that is one thing. The second thing is that institutes like diets are expected to take up research on their own, and they're also expected to support school teachers in doing action researches. Again, action researchers have been emphasized as area where they work in their classrooms, but they also, come up with questions and look for answers in a more systematic manner. So that is a way in which teacher education institutes are supposed to partner with schools and support the professional development of teachers. And the third thing would be that usually diets and institutes like these are the places, are the setups which are responsible for the ongoing in-service teacher education. So they are in any case responsible for this professional development. So their attitude towards teachers, their relationship with teachers, all that plays a role. So I think, yeah, these three things.
It's there on paper, but somewhere when it comes to practice, there is a lag.
Yeah, there is a lag, but the point is that this is something that they are responsible for. So, and they are doing it. How they are doing it is the problem. So, for example, the workshops are happening. They are
Yes,
expected to do professional development.
yes,
Whether
yes.
they are doing that or not is the implementation or the execution challenge, which basically comes from the underlying assumptions that we have about teachers, about the system. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Richa. I think we are running out of time. Ananya's question is again there, the last question. She talks about the platforms for large-scale standardized online CPD, which is on Diksha, like the Nishtha and the Swayam, of course. How would these such trainings respond to diverse classroom realities of teachers? So do you think they are useful for teachers or?
I don't really have a great response to this, Ananya, Bindu. I can only share, what I have heard from teachers. One, I have constantly heard that when people are supposed to, and both government and private schools expect teachers to do some hours of this thing. So they would use, this is the easiest way to complete the CPD, the mandatory CPD. So you can just turn it on and not pay attention also. But that would happen if you don't find it useful. If you find it useful, if you find it engaging, then that would not happen. So probably that doesn't say about the platform itself, but more about the uh, relevance of the resource for the teachers. Uh, the other thing is that when we are talking of TPD as a space for people to learn from each other, for people to come together, for a kind of space where they which is able to support development of a community. So these online resources are also in a way putting them back into their isolated spaces. In any case, teachers are very isolated. So this is putting them more into it. But अगर आप खराब ट्रेनिंग करने वाले हैं वो तो यही ठीक है फिर.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. I think we've run out of time also. Thank you so much, Richa. Your experiences and your real stories from the ground were really interesting and gives us a lot to think about. Yeah, CPD is a complex space, but we won't give up hope. We'll continue to find solutions to help teachers become more professional. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bindu. Thank you, Ananya.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
everyone, for
Richa.
joining.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.